screen so that I can. All right. So I want to make today's conversation useful for everyone on the phone. I appreciate you stopping by to listen to me. I started this business because I worked with a lot of small and medium sized companies in the GovCon space. And I understand the needs of small businesses in the proposal development world. So I'll give a little bit of my own background um, in a minute, but let me walk through what the purpose of today's meeting is and what we are going to cover on today's webinar. So the first thing we want to cover down on is the understanding the basics of AI in proposal writing. So what it means for you as a government contractor and some of the kind of case studies and information on AI and its capabilities, specifically in the GovCon space. And then I want to move into the practical application of actually using some of these AI tools to assist with some of the proposal work and proposal development work. So give you a hands-on example and show you exactly how you could do it. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about security and privacy in this world, and then I want to open it up for Q&A that you guys can put in the piece. And so, I think the purpose here is not just to, show you what we do, but, AI is very changing the space very quickly. And so these tools are actually free. I mean, you can use OpenAI, ChatGPT to assist with some things. And so I want this to be a session where you walk away learning and understanding what's going on in this world of AI so that you can use these to help your business processes. So let's jump right into it. You know, this is a opportunity for you to get practical knowledge and hands-on experience. And so, the goal here is not to just have it be a product pitch or anything like that. I'm not going to talk too much about our services and what we do in general. But I often I want people to think about if you've used any of these tools before, ChatGPT, Bard, Copilot. These are provided by the big vendors, Google, Microsoft, and if you have tried it, OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, their tool is free. You just need to create a login. You don't need to pay anything. So if you haven't tried it, definitely log in and start asking it some questions. If you haven't kind of started the AI trend, it's really easy. It's a responsive AI chatbot, and you can get a sense of how it works and what its capabilities are very quickly and easily. You definitely should do it. If you've tried using it for proposals already, you may have found that it has some issues. And I want to help everyone here learn how to use it most effectively in the world of proposals. So if you have any of the issues, if you've had any of these issues and you want to comment on them, please put it in the chat and talk about what you found to be effective or ineffective in using AI in the proposal space. But a little bit of background on me. I come from an acquisition background. I got my FACSI certification. I was managing acquisitions at the Department of Interior. I oversaw a team of 33 contract specialists there, and we did everything from writing statements of work, to writing justifications, in JoFox, to market research and acquisition planning, through to award drafting and making recommendations and sitting on technical evaluation boards and technical evaluation panels. So in those 5 years, I oversaw a lot of acquisitions, and I learned what an organization looks for and specifically, I think that there's a lot of similarities to the VA in that the Bureau of Indian Affairs specifically has something similar to the rule of two, in that there's a specific organizations, in this case, Native American owned organizations, that have a preferential treatment for the Bureau of Indian Affairs underneath the Department of Interior, the same way that the VA has preference for VOSBs and SDVOSBs. So after I left that role, I started writing proposals. I'd been reading them for years, and I started to write them and understand exactly what the needs of small business were. So I moved from one side of the coin to the other, and I wrote them, a couple dozen proposals over a couple year period. I was writing mostly for an 8A, an SDVOSB, and a woman-owned small business that all worked together very closely. And so I learned the needs of the small business world from that side as well. And what happened was when AI started, generative AI came out about a year and a half ago, I asked these companies, would it be all right if I were to use these tools to help your processes? And they said yes on a couple conditions. And what they were mostly asking for was, we want this to be a secure and proprietary container where we can use this. We want to make sure that our proposal language stays confidential to our company. And I understood that. The words that I had written for those businesses had helped them win more than $150 million worth of work. So I knew why they wanted to keep that language secure and proprietary. And I started looking for solutions that were not any of these kind of big scale tools that we had looked at on the last couple of slides, but something that was offline, highly secure, and could meet those needs and requirements. That was the genesis of this company. And so when I say, use any of these tools, feel free to put in any public information to them. So if you need help kind of parsing out of which part is section C or L or M, and which one is relevant, and what are the, how do I summarize all this long, complex information? AI is going to be great for that. So, that's a quick example of what to do. But let's take a step back to start and talk about what is generative AI and how does it work. So, generative AI at the most basic level is something that can generate content for you. And here we are, we're still in the early side of this exploration. And so you can see that, over the last couple of years, these AI models have been getting more and more technically advanced. So up in the upper right-hand corner here, ChatGPT 4, this one, they did an update, I think yesterday or 2 days ago. So, we are, at the critical time in this technology where it's getting much better, much more quickly. And the reason that it's so valuable for government contractors is that it can create content really, really quickly. And it can create content that's similar to content that you already have really quickly as well. So the government comes out with these types of solicitations all of the time saying, hey, we need an RFI for this, or an RFP for that, or RFQ, or we have a statement of objectives, and we need you to write the performance work statement. And there's a lot of work to be done. A lot of that work is mental work that only humans can do, but a lot of that work is actually also just creating content, especially for companies that have done it before. It's drafting similar content to do it. And so what you can do is, what AI can do really well is to shred out information. And so to shred a solicitation means to pull out the key information saying, when is the proposal due? What's the due date? When are questions due? What's the, security requirements? Is this secret clearance, top secret? Is it, is this a base +4? Is this a 6-month contract? What is this? And so sifting through all of that content, because the solicitation might be 100 pages, might be 150, and the, getting that information and pulling it out of this document, the solicitation document. Same with the shall statements. the contractor shall do X, contractor shall do Y. Um, Getting that list of stuff, it's something that would take a human hours and hours to do. You're sifting through all this document. But if you can copy and paste that document into an AI and you can ask it questions, it can actually pull out those answers for you in seconds. And so you have the ability using this tool to save yourself a lot of time. Um, you know, Organizing the information to a compliance matrix, some of these things are a bit more complex and aren't, the AI might not get right on the first request. So there's some tips and tricks that I'm going to go into a little bit later on that. But in a nutshell, the generative AI sits in the middle and you have to ask it a prompt and you can get out some of these answers on the right-hand side by doing that. So generative AI is only one type of AI. It's a subset of deep learning. And so there are a number of other AI elements that you can use. Generative AI is just the one that's right now taking the world by storm because the advances of it have been so fast and furious. Um, so the way that generative AI works is it is a pattern recognition engine. And so what it's doing is it's playing Mad Libs for the most part. And it's looking at its data set for these big generic ones like OpenAI, ChatGPT. Its data set is pretty much the entire internet up through a year or two ago. So it's taking all of the data, every book, everything that's ever been published on the internet. And if you start typing a response, it's playing Mad Libs and it's looking for what the next word is going to be. That's the most likely word. And so if you put it in and you just put the word data, it could do, data management or, you know, data analytics. These are pretty common words. And depending on all the words that come before it, it's going to pick whatever is mathematically the most likely word. Um, so the way that you need to, if you want to get more specified information that's directly for government contracting, what you want to do is use some of the other types of AI. And so I'm going to just describe them at a pretty high level. So if you have a bunch of data that's already labeled, then you can use something called supervised learning. So you already know what information is what. Um, a great example of this is on SAM. They already pull out some of this information for what's the NAICS code or what's some of these other things. And so if you have that information that's already categorized, you can actually teach the AI to recognize it better because the data is already labeled. If you have a bunch of data that's unlabeled, for example, a lot of times in your proposals, you talk about what your capabilities are. And you do, if you have use one NAICS code or two or three NAICS codes, or NIACS codes, whatever you call them, tracking which of the capabilities fall under which code, that would be something that's like unsupervised learning. You don't already have a map of which one goes to which, or sometimes some people do. But that type of crosswalk is something that the AI can do for unlabeled data sets. And so the new technology, the new piece of this is what's called doing embeddings. And embeddings take each of these words and all of this data and they plot them in three-dimensional space in a graph. And that's called making an embedding of it. And these embeddings have different relational points. And so the AI can use these things to learn. So you have walk here and walked there, swimming and swam. And so it can learn that the direction of past tense is kind of that direction of these things, or that countries and capitals are all related in this way. So relating it to our world, you can start to learn about what agencies are acquiring, what types of goods and services they're looking for. You can also look at a bunch of different elements for your proposals in specific. I do recommend for security reasons not to put any of your proprietary proposal language into one of the large AI programs, but it can also do this type of learning on what you've written about in the past. So one of the big questions that you get is how do these AI programs generate new content? And, in the world of proposals for GovCon, what you want is you want to train the model on stuff that's specific to government contracting. So you want to take things like the FAR, and you want to take things like solicitations from sam.gov, and you want to use those to uh, focus the AI to write content that's relevant for our world. If you have a large language model that can write to anything, it could write a blog post or it could write an email, but it's not necessarily going to be the best at writing government contracting language. So your proposals won't be as highly customized and catered as they could be. So you want to make sure that the model that you're using is trained on this foundation of data. And so when you add in your specific proposal language, you can get a what's called fine-tuned model, a model that can sound and speak the way that your firm does. So it knows your past performance, it understands what work you've done and when, and it can apply these types of solutions to the specific problems that the government is posing. So if you were already a good match for the government work that's being requested, it's going to help you fill in those buckets using your past proposals, your past performance in the right place at the right time. So this is the potential here. I'm not going to spend too much time. There's a lot of work that goes into the background of this in terms of training the models, making sure that you're selecting the right ones, that you're training them appropriately, that you're doing the right type of fine tuning, etc. So if you have questions about that are more highly specific, please reach out to me. Happy to discuss, how to do it or any recommendations that we might have for you. But in terms of the marketplace itself, on the left-hand side here, there's a bunch of general AI tools. And, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google Bard, I think was rebranded to Google Gemini. Microsoft has Copilot. There's a company called Anthropic. They have Claude. These are, I know that OpenAI has ChatGPT. There's a free version. So if you want to get your feet wet, definitely Google that. OpenAI, ChatGPT, you can just start talking to it and you'll start to get a sense for what this is like. Some of these are paid, and so you'll have to get a subscription or pay for it in some way, shape, or form. And all of these are closed source, so these companies are looking to make money off of the premium subscription type of thing, like a Netflix you pay every month. There are open source models. This means open source means they allow you to download the code yourself and play with it and run it on your own computer. You don't need to pay anything for it, but you do need to have technical people that figure out how to host it and do all of that background stuff. So the two major open source models right now are Llama. Llama 3 came out about a week and a half ago. It's very powerful and it compares pretty well to OpenAI, ChatGPT, and Mistral is another one. And so these are ones that you can run yourself. If you want to run a completely offline model, you should definitely look into running one of these two open source models. And there are a bunch of companies, GovPro AI is one of them, but as I said, this is not a sales pitch, that do this type of stuff. So they will help you in some way, shape, or form. This is not an exhaustive list, but these companies are all doing some version of helping people in the government space. I will do a short plug here. What makes us a little bit different, my company GovPro AI, is that we don't just provide tools to people. A lot of these companies, they provide you a tool, they sell it. We actually do the work for you, and we will give you back a rough draft. So we're going to train the AI on your behalf so that you're set up for success. But if you have any more information, go to govpro.ai, click contact me. We'll send you an email. We can do that. But to bring it back to what this is about, which is an educational thing, I want to deal with one big misconception that I think people worry about when they start to see the power of these tools, which is that AI is going to somehow replace us. It's going to take, our jobs or our work. And I really don't think about it that way. And I use AI all the time, professionally for my job, obviously. And I don't know what the average age in the room is, but I'm going to date myself a little bit by giving this example. But when I was in high school, graphing calculators came out. And I remember when I was like a freshman and sophomore, and I was taking some classes, and I would have to uh, plot out the graphing points of where exactly is um, this point on the graph. And I would have to solve the equation at 0 and -1 and 1. And, I would be solving the equation 2, 3, 4 times to get what is the shape of this graph. And then I could draw the line. And when I got a graphing calculator, you just plug in the equation and the line shows up like magic on the graph. Um, it's not that I was doing any less math after graphing calculators came out. It's a powerful tool that let me actually do more math because I wasn't wasting my time solving the same equation 3 or 4 times. I was able to see the point in the graph and then figure out what's the real why did I graph this in the first place. I need to, look at the movement of, whatever, some train moving 240 miles an hour while another train is moving whatever, blah blah blah. So the point here is AI frees your team and you up to spend time doing the work that's actually important that an AI will never be able to do. It's going to take out some of the drudgery of putting together a 50-page paper, a 40-page, 56-page, 37-page paper that meets requirements X, Y, Z, A, B, C. But that's going to give you back the time to work on your teaming arrangements, bring in the right partners, to find the right key personnel, to do all of the work that's actually really significant for your business that no computer will ever be able to do for you. And so I think about it not as replacing us, but just taking the drudgery part out of it. There's no shortage of proposal work to be done, but there is a shortage of our time. And so, having been on a lot of proposal teams, you end up working late nights and working weekends and all of that stuff. If this can buy back some of that time or, take some of the drudgery off of your plate, that's really what I think that the strong message here is, in terms of the power of this tool and what it can help you with. So, um, the thinking about it, from a kind of taking a step back perspective, um, it would be great if an AI could come to the table already knowing all of these things: your company history and values, your team, your past performance and capabilities and accomplishments, and be able to automatically match that to a solicitation's requirements to shred out and understand what's section C, what's the statement of work for this proposal, each of those subsections, what's section L, how do I need to respond to this, what are the instructions to offers, and then M, the evaluation criteria, and map all of that stuff automatically, and then start just matching A to B. And on top of that, there's some things that are going to require ideation and solutioning, figuring out how exactly you're going to respond to that. So it would be amazing if the AI could just come out of the box, you just power it on, and it does that automatically. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in yet. So in order to get to this place, you actually have to do a significant amount of work. If you start playing with, I'm going to pick on ChatGPT. If you start playing with ChatGPT, you realize that it's really powerful and it can create some of these amazing narratives. But yes, all the slide presentations will be sent out. So they're going to be sent out by Curtis. I believe he said today or tomorrow. I see the chats. I'll try to answer the ones that I know the answer to quickly. So it would be great, but you'll see if you start playing with it, it's not going to know all of that information right off the bat. And so it also forgets these things as you talk to it more and more. And so you need to have a solution that's really customized and catered to, yeah, the recording will also be sent out, catered to your company in specific. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. It's not a simple or straightforward process. And so what we are focused on in this space is how do you make that bridge? Because a lot of this information for a lot of these small businesses especially is locked up somewhere. I've worked with a lot of small businesses, and STBOSBs. You've written these proposals before, so you have this information somewhere in your knowledge database, in your company's past performance, in your history. You put it on this proposal here or that proposal there, but mapping it to this requirement in specific and getting that information and pulling out what's the most relevant piece, and then how do I talk about it in the right way that meets the requirements here. That's the challenge. And so, you have to have the contextual awareness of this proposal in specific. You have to have the knowledge bank set up for your proposal library in general. And then, one of the things I talk a lot about is just because you have set all of that up, just because you've prepped all the stuff correctly, you've chopped the vegetables, you put them in place, the meat is cut, it's salted and tenderized, just because the kitchen is ready to go doesn't mean that anyone can walk in and make any dish they want. You still need a chef that is going to be the head chef that can make everything work together. And so, uh, you know, one of the important things to do is to understand what the AI can do and what you need a human for and what training that human has to have. So, there's a lot of tasks that the AI can do for you that you can send it out and say, hey, do this piece, and it'll come back with a decent answer. Maybe not the best in the world, but a decent, a pretty good quality one. The question is, how do those pieces fit together, and what type of person and with what type of training do you need to have to get all of those pieces into the right format to move this down the line. And so this is what a lot of small businesses struggle with. This whole, everything that I was just talking about. Um, so, uh, I think that there's a lot of potential here. And so I want to dive in on a couple of specific examples in the time that we have about how you can use AI tools. And I want to keep it very generic. I want to keep it very high level, and I want to keep it free so that you guys can do these things and test them out and use it at your own discretion. So I do think we have a bit too many people to have this be interactive, but I'm just going to go through an exercise of some of the ways that, excuse me, this can work, and um, some things you can keep in mind. And you are going to get these slides and this recording so that on your next proposal, you can try and use this to make the process go faster, have an easier and better time with it, and and keep these things in mind. So, um, the first thing that you need to understand about using an AI in the proposal world is the importance of context. So, when you are prompting the AI, I said a couple slides ago, um, you know, there's a prompt, and then there's the AI that you use, and there's an output. That's at a very simple level what this software, what this application does. And so the prompt that you put in, the starting point, is extremely important. And the more context that you give the AI, the better the output will be. So if you tell it the agency that you're proposing to, if you tell it the specific problem statement, that's usually like section A1 or A2 or section C1 or C2, and the objectives of this project or the objectives of this specific section that you want it to write. The AI can't generally write an entire 50-page paper at once. You need to have it write section by section, and you need to include this type of specific contextual information so that take it can have an answer that's customized to it. So this is a way to help make sure that the answers that you're going to get are going to be higher quality and you're going to get a better output. This is going to save you time. So, for example, in terms of crafting these precise instructions, you don't want to say something like below, write about our team's qualifications. You want to be much more specific of generate a project management plan outline that includes timelines, milestones, risk management strategies, etc. So the more specific the language that you use, the better the outcomes you're going to get. And if you want to have a specific format or tone, you need to specify that directly. So, um, in terms of formatting, a lot of times the government wants, there's people call these all sorts of things, crosswalks, there's meatball charts, there's all sorts of things. It can do any and all of these things. And a lot of times it's an iterative process. So you're going to put in some information and say, hey, can you draw an example of this? And then it's going to spit you back and you say, oh, I forgot to include this, or I actually want it in this format, or whatever. And so thinking and just knowing that you can tell it the um, length of the section that you're looking for, the tone of the section that you're looking for. A lot of times, if you tell it to be more formal, it's going to use larger words. If you want it, one great thing to do is say, write in a 11th grade reading level, or don't use words longer than 3 syllables. And so it can adopt whatever these requirements that you put out there as the way that it can write. Um, I think that one of the things that's really critical to understand is you need to read everything that it puts out. So it's not going to give you the right answer the first time. And the process of getting to it is a collaborative navigation. So one of the things that we do for our customers is we assign a pilot or a chef that kind of sits in the cockpit and gets these things out and makes sure that the format is right, that the tone is right, that all of these things are right. Because yes, it's going to save you a lot of time to use an AI to get these things. It's still going to take a lot of time. So most proposal efforts across government take 100 to 200 hours. There's no getting around that, or wasn't before this. Um, you can cut that time down significantly using AI, but it's not kind of snap out of the box going to be just what you're looking for. You need someone that manages the this proposal process as you always have. The thing is, the cost of having someone do it using AI is going to be lower, but they have to have different skills. They have to know how to go through each of these processes and do these types of things. So those are some of the simple things. What I want to um, get into is a couple of the more advanced techniques, and just kind of open the door for that so that you guys understand what are kind of the next level up. I'm going to go through them all quickly and some of the merits and demerits of each. So what we were talking about before, where you just ask it a prompt, draw me up a cybersecurity plan of something like that. That's what you would call zero shot. You're not giving it any past examples. It doesn't have a reference of what's good. So it's going to just use the entire internet as its database, if you're using one of these large scale open models. So if you give it some examples saying, here is a matrix that we've used previously, here's our onboarding plan or whatever, adapt it for this specific use case. We're now applying to this proposal for this agency with these specific requirements. So that will get you a much higher quality answer, because if you give it this reference material, it's going to understand a lot more, and it can pick up context from what the information that you've given it that can help you get to the right answer faster. Again, a warning: strongly recommend not putting your proprietary information into any public AI model. But if you have the ability to give it that type of context, you will get much better answers. That's number A. Number B, the chain of thought. The AI models are actually really bad at doing any type of math or complex thinking. So, one of the ways around this is, so as an example of this, if you ask it to multiply two numbers, it's thinking like in text. And I told you it's playing Mad Libs. So it's finding the most likely answer. So if you ask it, 273 times 75, it's going to come up with an answer, but it's not a mathematical calculating engine. It's a word predicting engine. So it's going to come up with something that's might not make super a ton of sense. What this means in the GovCon space is that doing things that like doing an implementation plan or doing a, onboarding timeline and understanding the dates and times that certain people need to be in certain places to do things, very frequently stuff the government really needs you to specify and outline, it's not going to do a great job because it doesn't think about what um, if this person needs to arrive first in order for this thing to happen and kick off next in order to have this thing, it doesn't do that kind of reasoning. One of the ways to get it to do a better job at that is to use the phrase think step by step. So if you're working on these types of problems, using this phrase think step by step is actually a really, really key way to get higher quality responses. I can talk about the reason that it works, but send me an email. I'll put my contact info or send the go to the company page and I can explain why. It's really helpful to give the AI a persona. So a common one is you're an experienced proposal writer for federal solicitations. Um, this is the persona that it is. You're trying to get it to act as a proposal writer. So this is going to really help the outputs be specific to this industry. But again, you're using the entire internet as your database as opposed to having a specific set of training data that it's trained on that's more highly relevant to your company. So, your mileage may vary. And then these last two pieces, I'm going to skip to E first. So the context window optimization. Context window is just how much kind of thinking memory this AI has. If you talk to it for a long time, it's going to forget the beginning part of your conversation, unfortunately. And so if you give it a bunch of information about your company at the beginning and then you talk to it for too long, it's going to forget who it's been talking to and all that information that you gave it about your company. So you need to kind of understand where this limitation lies and work around that in your workflow. As you use these tools more frequently, you will get more used to it. Exactly. It has a Dory memory. That's perfect. And so one of the ways that you can do it is at the right times is to reprompt it with that information and just put back in the information, especially the information that's relevant to the section that you need right now. So having all that information on hand to be able to just feed directly back in when it starts kind of straying off about which agency did we say we're proposing this to, and what did we, which past performance were we writing this about, and that it has that information that's just the most relevant information put in right there. These two things in combination are really critical for getting the high quality responses that are going to save you a lot of time. So just two things to think about as you're doing this. So exercise here, I'll give everyone just a minute, is to come up with a prompt that you would use to shred an RFP. Feel free to type it into the chat box so that everyone can see. I'll give just a minute and take another glass of water for this exercise.
Well, we got a minute, Alex. I got one question. Well, maybe two.
All right.
When somebody asks, do you have any recommendations where we can reference excellent GovCon prompts regarding proposal development, shredding a PWS, etc.?
That's a good question. I don't have any, but I'd be happy to share a bunch of the ones that we use if you send us an email or contact. I mean, this is a great idea for a blog post or a white paper that we can make downloadable. Is a bunch of these prompts. So yeah, happy to share the ones that we have. I don't know if there's any open repository for them, but yeah, I can. That's a great idea.
Awesome. Thank you. And last one, do we have the resources, computer power to fine tune such a model locally on a desktop?
We do have those resources. So we have that and we're testing it. It's in beta right now. So we would be able to, I can explain more about how it works. actual setup and fine tuning process will not happen on the desktop model, but once it's complete, you can run the entire thing on your desktop. We have that capability that we are in beta testing with a couple of our customers to be able to do. I think that if you do proposals in the IC, you would definitely should be interested in this, and we can have that conversation. So send me an email, fill out the contact form. Happy to talk to you more through about this. I would say for open, well, the timeline for it, we can discuss, but we would be able to help you with that. So, um, okay, so I'm going to share my prompt. So this is one, and you can feel free to copy paste. You'll get this entire presentation actually. Um, so your job is to act as an experienced proposal writer. I've got a window over here. I'm going to give you a copy of the solicitation, including the specifications, as well as the instructions, offers, and evaluation sections. I want you to create a compliance matrix for this solicitation. Thinking step by step, I want you to extract the instructions to offers and structure the how to bid outline should look, and then consider the exact specifications that should be included in each section. Do not use flowery language. So using something like this will get you pretty far in terms of the answer. It's not going to get you all the way, and there might be a couple iterations. You might need to break down some of these things. Sometimes longer prompts are better. Other times, shorter, very direct prompts are better. There's definitely like an art to it that's not completely natural, but next steps, and we can talk about this too. But how would you get a draft for a specific section of a proposal? And once you have your outline and you've mapped it to the requirements, then what are the next steps for each section, and how do you do that? I do want to take just a moment here before we open it up for questions to talk about the security and privacy challenges. I don't know how other companies do this. I know how we do it. What we do is we run a completely private offline AI that's separate for each one of our customers. So it runs in a completely separate siloed environment with only their proposal language. And we do the fine tuning and training on their language, and we put it in a siloed, secure environment with an individual copy of a large language model. That's why we use the open source ones. We just download it and we train it on theirs so that your data isn't going to any of these large corporations. It's not going out on the public internet. And we are not training on it outside of that one model that's just for you. So each of our customers gets that guarantee that your data isn't going anywhere. It literally can't, the way we've set up our platform. And there's the risks as a result for these businesses, most of our customers are small business GovCons, set aside, et cetera, is much lower. So there's no way for your data to be moved, to be accessed or moved, and for another company to be able to see it. I knew that we needed to set up our system this way from the beginning. I have worked in this space for over a decade. I've seen kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly of partnerships and sending things and NDAs. And so when we set this up from the beginning, I knew that that would be the way to do it. I think that there are large scale security concerns with the large AI platforms of the world. OpenAI was, despite YouTube's terms and conditions, it was announced a couple of months ago that they used a ton of YouTube data and videos to train the algorithm for OpenAI, ChatGPT. And I think that these large companies that are creating bigger and bigger models are looking for more and more unique and proprietary data to train their models on. A lot of them say, like, just because we train on it doesn't mean that someone else could extract that data and that they have security concerns in place. That's not what the security experts that work for me tell me is the case. So we set it up such that the information can't move outside of the secure sandbox that we set up for each customer. So I do really strongly recommend that you at least, if you're going to use any of these larger companies, make sure that the agreement that you sign with them says that they do not train on any of your personal information. Usually, you have to pay for that, but regardless, be very careful if you're using any of these large things, anything that's available publicly on the internet, anything that you don't need to do two-factor authentication to get into, or you need to sign into a VPN. Those are good signals that they're taking a very secure look at your data. So if you do have to do the two-factor authentication, I know it's annoying. If you do have to get onto a VPN, those are indicators that your data is in a highly secure environment because you need to do that type of work to get into the environment. So just some ways to think about it, as this is a very fast evolving and confusing space. I want to make those concerns available and make sure that you guys are thinking about them as you're doing it. So, and then we have just over 10 minutes. I definitely want to make sure that there's time for Q&A. And I know that we've talked to a lot of different topics here. Please feel free to jump in with questions. Curtis, I know you can field them, and I've seen some of them popping up on the screen. I don't know if that's been the chat or the Q&A, but I'll hand it over to you, and happy to answer anything as best I can.
Awesome, thank you. I do have a couple questions in the Q&A. Alex will get a copy of the chat, so if you do have some questions in the chat function, he will answer them for you and follow up with you.
Yep.
We'll have a copy of your email address when you register for this webinar, and that will be provided. So we will get back to you with your answers for some of your questions. Like I said, sometimes it's kind of hard to navigate through the chat with all the responses, with other things, and also the questions to follow. So that's why I asked that you put them in the Q&A. But no worries, we will get back to you with a response either way. So for the questions that I have right now is the one prompt answer in the presentation similar to or the same as what you use with actual solicitation proposal efforts?
I would say it's a much simplified version of what we use. We have about 200 prompts that we use. There's a thing called prompt chains. And so you can chain one prompt to another, to another, to another in order to get a refined response. So if you know that this type of prompt is going to get this type of output, then you can use that output as the input to the next prompt, and you can chain them together. This is one of the techniques that you can use to kind of speed up the process significantly once you learn kind of what the steps on the chain need to be and how to formulate the inputs and outputs. I would say a lot of the prompts that we use are much, much longer. Some of them are really, really short, but you know, so happy to talk more about it, but by much longer, I mean like 1 to 2 pages can be a single prompt. So you really need to think carefully about how you want to input the data and the format that you want as the output.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Next question. What is the ballpark spend a company would expect for a secure private AI? Is it really affordable for a small business?
Yeah. I think it depends on what you need the AI for and how much of the pre-training has been done for you. So if you're looking for a generic custom purpose, I don't know. What I'll tell you is that it can range anywhere from, a couple thousand to, tens or hundreds of thousands to get it up and running for you. Our pricing, for getting this for our customers starts at the 10 to 15K range. And that includes the delivery of a couple of proposals so that you can actually see the value and the output that you get from it and work it into your proposal process. So almost all of our customers are small businesses. They have these needs. I'm very familiar with these needs, having worked for an SDBOSB for 5 years, a couple of other small businesses for another, more than 5 years. So, I'd say for companies that are super small, it might be really challenging. But if you have won, a couple of proposals or have primed, it's probably in the affordable range for you. Um, Especially like for us, we make it cheaper via, there's two ways. I don't mean it to be too much of a pitch for us, but um, first of all, because we already know what proposal language looks like, and we have already kind of half baked the tool to be proposal focused, it's not, you know, an AI that you have to custom create from scratch to do that purpose already. Then we're just taking it and we're fine tuning it on your data in specific to make a custom model that's for you in this environment. So we've already kind of done half the work, and that's a sunk cost for us. So we're not charging for that piece of it. And the other thing is, if you time out when you're going to do this training, the training is really expensive to do and can cost thousands of dollars easily. But there are cheaper times and more expensive times. So if you need it all done by tomorrow, well, then you have to pay for the spot price to do it right now. If you can wait a week or two, then we can do it at cheaper times during the night and day when the prices are lower, and because the time isn't as important. So those are some things we do to keep the prices down for small businesses.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Next question. Do you like Gemini, Mr. Cohen? What are pros and cons?
Mm. I really like Gemini. I really like all of the models. I think that we are like at the very beginning. One of the first slides I showed is like the bell curve, and that we're like really early on it. Um, so I think that there's a lot of innovation that's going to happen and change. I think Gemini, the multimodality of it, so multimodality just meaning that it can interact with different kinds of media inputs. So video, text, pictures, audio, those types of things. Um, it also has an extraordinarily large context window. Um, I was originally really bullish on this, and I actually, had to eat a little humble pie. We haven't found that huge context window to be super significant in terms of better than other methodologies like RAG, which is like a context dependent uh, technology to add in more context. Um, but we have found it to be super, super good for certain things. A lot of people on my team really like Claude by Anthropic. You know, we use it for a lot of our internal stuff. We don't use these tools for our customers. Obviously, we use our home baked model, but the home baked models are often, behind these multi-billion dollar companies that are releasing the newest and best stuff all the time. So you pay a price for this high level of security, and that's not being right on the bleeding edge. But big fan of Gemini, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Where can a comprehensive list be found of all the AI platforms that provide government proposal support services?
Shoot me an email. I'll send you one.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Do you support customer access to your AI tool or only provide the output that you develop internally?
We do provide customer access to the tool um, for most of our customers, actually. The majority of our customers are much more interested in having the full service model. The customers that use the tool themselves that we do the training for are often in the intelligence community or have another reason to need it like locally deployed. Um, because the chef in the kitchen I've said is very important. Most of the people that we hire to be that chef are retired government KOs. So we hire contracting officers to do it. They already know what a good output is. They've read it thousands of times. So we don't have to do as much training in terms of the proposal side of it. It's just the AI piece. And their experience lends really well to that. So that's really valuable, I think, to especially to a lot of these smaller businesses who might not have been able to afford that type of support before. So combining AI plus that type of expertise ends up being a super valuable service. But we can do it either way for companies. So it really depends on what you want.
Thank you. I think, let me see. What is the best way to expose upper management to begin exploring use of AI?
Mm, that is a great question. Um, I think about it from, I mean, obviously you have to have a conversation with it. One of my mentors jokes that the key to communication is communication. Um, but I think that the framing of the conversation is really important, and the way that I think that upper management usually thinks about these things is, you know, they have staffed and created the organization to have a certain level of throughput. So they want to get out X number of proposals per year. Let's say it's 25, just for an average. And so they staff the organization to have the right number of proposal writers, the right number of subject matter experts, et cetera, and everyone. So you can do two a month, maybe two and a little bit per month. Some months are longer than others, and that'll get you to 24, 25 a year, and you'll meet your goal. The problem that happens for a lot of these organizations is, you know, October rolls around, uh, and the government is busy. The government's like, hey, we just awarded a bunch of stuff. We don't need to, we just got through end of year, man. We're not going to release pretty much anything in October. Okay, that's fine. November rolls around and one or two proposals come out for you. And December rolls around, Christmas, New Year's, no proposals come out. So now you're actually four proposals behind on your plan. And so you know that August is going to come around and they're going to have like 16 proposals, but you've staffed your organization to have two or three done per month. So the time to ask your management to think about using AI is when you've got proposals in flight and everyone on the team is busy and something drops that you were expecting to drop later, but it moved left and now it's sitting on your plate and you wish you could apply to it. You wish you could do something to get this proposal in, but you can't. That's kind of a great prompting scenario to have that conversation with your management and say, hey, we don't have the internal capacity to do this one right now, even though it's a great fit for us, even though we've been tracking it for a year, because we have this, and that all in flight right now. Can we, what's going to make up the difference? Technology. So I'd say that's the best basis for a conversation. That's usually when customers come to us.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. This has been some great information. This has been a wonderful webinar, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Your responses, you saying thank you in the chat, and I know you can see the responses, Alex, from everyone, and I see some hand claps. I appreciate your time. This has been great. I hope everybody got some useful information out of this. If we didn't get to your question, once again, we will get back to you. Send those to Alex, and he will respond back to your questions. His contact information is up on the screen. Should you have a question or anything, please email him. Thank you for your time, Alex. I'm very grateful. I really appreciate it for helping our community out with, this wonderful webinar. Please, 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 after this is over, let us know how we did today. There's a survey that's coming out. At the end, once we end this, let us know how we did today, and I will see you next time. Give you guys your time back. I hope everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you again. Right now.